Thank you for tuning in. You're watching the Property Guide on ET Now. This is your one-stop guide to all property investments in the country. If you have any feedback about the show or questions about buying a home, feel free to write to us. Our email ID is at the bottom of your screen. You can reach me personally on Twitter as well. We'll tell you on this show all about new investment options in the NCR region. We'll talk about Neemrana, Bhiwari and Dwarka Expressway. We'll also answer questions you sent in on Mumbai, Pune and Chennai. Well, it's going to be a very, very special show. I'm very pleased with this show. I have two lovely ladies advising us on property. So it's literally an all-girls show this week, which makes me really happy. Shweta Jain, Executive Director Residential at Cushman Wakefield, India, and Jayashree Kurup, Head of Content and Research at magicbricks.com. Ladies, thank you so much for coming in. I want to first bring in another beautiful lady on the show. Avan is going to join us now with an update of how prices have moved in the locations we're about to talk about. And then we'll come back and find out what the hottest investment option is for you. Avan.
Thanks, Faye. Dwarka Expressway, New Delhi's new artery into Gurgaon, has seen a price rise of 15% in the last 2 years. Residential prices here are quoting at 4,600 to 6,000 rupees per square foot compared to 4,100 to 5,050 rupees a square foot in 2012. The industrial hub of Bhiwari, which lies on the Rajasthan-Haryana border, has seen a 17% increase in prices in the last 2 years. You can buy a house here 2,450 to 2,900 rupees per square foot currently, compared to 2,100 to 2,500 rupees per square foot in 2012. Najafgarh, which is located at the outskirts of the southwestern part of Delhi, is seeing residential prices quoting at 2,900 to 3,050 rupees per square foot currently. With that, it's back to you, Faye.
All right, Avan, thank you so much for joining us. Shweta, the reason why we decided to have this show is because we had so many questions from people coming in saying, okay, so we know there's Gurgaon, we know there's Noida, we know there's Faridabad, we know where the prices have gone. What will be the next Gurgaon, the next Greater Noida? Where should we be looking for the next big thing in the NCR region? If I were to ask you to name a few locations, what would those be?
So if we actually look at the way NCR has panned out over the last 8 to 10 years, many new locations have emerged. So we began with some key locations of Gurgaon, then some corridors in Noida, and then followed by Greater Noida. Over the last 5 years within Gurgaon, we've actually seen addition of many new micro markets again. And these are your Golf Course Extension Road, Dwarka Expressway, New Gurgaon, Southern Peripheral Road, etc. Then Noida Extension is another micro market which has come up towards east. So it's interesting how NCR has panned out. I mean, so whilst all of this is going on and it's kind of sort of giving many opportunities to investors, stroke end users, but parallelly there's also an sort of an oversupply scenario which is actually clocked in. So while we kind of, these are more suburban locations, I mean, it's interestingly within Delhi, under the new master plan, there's a lot of new land that has got unlocked by DDA. And personally, I mean, I believe that that's really the next big opportunity for anybody to take a position in. This location, which is actually in and around Najafgarh, is going to offer both country homes, which is under the scheme of low density residential area. And these are essentially, which sort of in a layman's language, they can be called farmhouses. And then there will also be a lot of residential which will emerge because the land is actually broken between residential, commercial, industrial and farmhouses.
Jayashree, I'm going to bring you in here. First, let's talk about Dwarka Expressway because that's what Shweta first mentioned. I remember when we talked about 6 to 8 months ago, you said Dwarka Expressway, there's oversupply, the prices have run up, construction is, is still underway, it's going to be a while away. From then to now, has anything changed for Dwarka Expressway at all, or do you still hold the same opinion?
No, I think a lot of things have changed on the Dwarka Expressway. One thing is that the government as well as the private developers who were developing on the Dwarka Expressway, they have got together and tried to find an out-of-court settlement with some few litigants who were left along that area. And I think most of the litigants, if not all, have been paid off, and I think the litigations are being closed right now. So there is a lot of expectation that the Dwarka Expressway will actually take off in the next few months, which means that, most of the, I drove down the Dwarka Expressway, most sections are complete except for that litigated area, and there I think a lot of settlements have happened. So there is light at the end of the Dwarka tunnel, so one could actually look at Dwarka Expressway.
Well, Jayashree, if I were to ask you to choose between Dwarka Expressway and Najafgarh at this point, given the rates, given the fact that we will see a metro line heading in that direction eventually, what would you recommend we do if we are only looking for an investment?
I would say small investors should keep away from the Najafgarh area, because right now the development plan is being created, and a lot of private unorganized developers are actually selling plotted development, are actually putting out I think group housing societies at 1,000 rupees a square foot. So you see a lot of people are headed in that direction because they think that it is very low value. But the point is that the planning process is not complete, and if you end up buying a property that is actually in the areas that are for common facilities, you will be stuck. So I would say that the small investor should actually hold his horses and try the Dwarka Expressway, because that's the whole thing is planned. The developments have happened. Many properties are in the possession stage, so you don't have much to lose.
Shweta, let's look at Neemrana for a minute. There are plots available of land available at Neemrana for 6.6 lakh rupees right now. There are apartments available for 28 to 29 lakh rupees. But it's still, I mean, if you look at distances, that's justified. For someone who maybe lives in Delhi, who's looking to just make a quick investment of some cash that they have set aside right now, does Neemrana make sense? Does Bhiwari make sense? Or, like Jayashree told us, small investors should just focus in areas like Dwarka Expressway?
If somebody is wanting to take a position in the bracket of 25 to 30 lakhs, then I don't think Dwarka Expressway is going to happen, because overall the rates have already appreciated there. So one would need to minimum keep a budget of about 80 lakhs to a crore to really enter Dwarka Expressway. Bhiwari, between Neemrana and Bhiwari, I would recommend Bhiwari. That is it's an industrial town. It's not really seen too many established builders who've kind of sort of been doing development there, but you have developers like Ashiana who've taken positions in Bhiwari. In Bhiwari, the going price is about 25 to 2600 rupees a square feet, whereas Neemrana has already appreciated to 3500 rupees a square feet. Neemrana is a more end-user location because the distance is about 85 kilometers from Gurgaon. And long-term, whilst there is a lot of industrial development by the Japanese which is taking place, but principally I would recommend Bhiwari over Neemrana.
Jayashree, do you agree, Bhiwari over Neemrana? Also tell us, when you're looking at the website right now, where you're seeing the demand, where you're seeing the interest from end users and from investors. And the other question that I have for you is, when we talk about areas in Gujarat and we talk about the fact that manufacturing tends to attract a certain type of talent that might not be able to buy very expensive apartments, is that a trend that we might also see play out in areas like Neemrana and Bhiwari?
Faye, I think Neemrana and Bhiwari cannot be treated as extensions of the Gurgaon market, because like Shweta said, it's 85 kilometers away. It's a long way off. And if you are living and working in Gurgaon, if you go and buy Neemrana for end use, it doesn't make sense. The Dwarka Expressway definitely, because it is between Delhi and Gurgaon. It is very close to the airport and so on. But that is quite expensive. If you have a little bit of surplus cash, like you said, and you want to invest that cash, Neemrana and Bhiwari are the two locations that you can look at, because they have properties coming up, good developers. Like she said, Ashiana is a strong player in both Neemrana and Bhiwari, and you also have many other developers who are building in these areas. Social infrastructure is already available there, and Bhiwari for the last 20 years has been lived in by people who work in and around Bhiwari. So it's an industrial area. There is a rental demand. But I think that the Bhiwari market is more or less capped. If I look at the site, I don't see much rise in property values happening in Bhiwari. Take Neemrana. Neemrana is very early in its development cycle. It was launched in the 2008-2009 period, 2007-8 period, when the property markets were booming, and it was a lot of people went and invested in Neemrana. It was too early in the cycle. Today, what's happened is that with the DMIC corridor being announced, and especially since it's made its appearance in the budget, obviously the government is very serious about the DMIC right now. If you look at what's happening along the DMIC, and the RICO site actually mentions this, the Neemrana, Khushkhera, Bhiwadi, Neemrana township, a greenfield township with residential, industrial and commercial property, options there, is already on the cards. So when you look at Neemrana, it is very early in the cycle. You're entering at a very low rate, but you will be, 3,400 per square foot is not too high. And 28, 29 lakhs, you still can get good options in Neemrana. And once the whole project takes off, both Bhiwadi and Neemrana will benefit from it. Bhiwadi, it's already reached some amount of maturity. Neemrana early on, and it is growing. But the amount of investment, Japanese investment that's happening in the Neemrana area gives me, leads me to say that actually I would prefer Neemrana over Bhiwadi, because Bhiwadi is already invested. Neemrana is a new investment option.
If we do invest in Neemrana as a, purely as an investment at this point, what sort of capital returns can we assume over the next 5 years or so?
I would say that it depends actually on the pace of growth, and I think the DMIC is actually expected to take off very fast. And then you may not have just the low end of the manufacturing industry looking for property there. You would have a lot of warehousing, logistics. The rail hub is close by. So you see, it's going to give. If that kind of demand comes in Neemrana, I would say that it could give, maybe it could even reach 5,000, 5,500 in the next 3 to 4 years if the investment happens.
So if you're looking to buy or make an investment in any of the locations we just discussed, here are some options for you.
If you're looking to invest in Najafgarh, you can consider the Vedic Housing Welfare Society by Vedic Housing. If you're looking to invest in Neemrana, here are a few options for you. Ridgeview by the Avalon Group, Royal Court by Trihans Home Developers, the Sunrise RC by Connect Global Homes, and the Stanford Sunrise by Stanford Developers. For those of you who are looking to invest in Bhiwari, here are a few options. Rosewood by Avalon Group, Presidency Estate by Hindustan Fibers, Krish Harmony by Krish Infrastructure, and the Maple Greens by RLF Infratech. For those of you who are looking to invest in Dwarka Expressway, here are a few options. The Vatika One Express City by Vatika Group, Satya New Project 99A by the Satya Group, Beethoven's 8 by Agrante, and the Experion Westerlies by Experion Group.
When we come back, we'll talk about Pune, Chennai and Mumbai. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching the Property Guide in ET Now. Both of our guests are still with us, and we're going to answer some of the questions you sent in during the week. Now, Nikhil has written in. He's planning to buy a one-bedroom apartment of between 500 and 800 square feet in Virar. He says the apartment needs to be within 3 kilometers of Virar station, and he has a budget of 19 lakh rupees. Please give him some options. Jayashree, obviously being close to Virar station is the top priority at this point, but is there, have you seen any options within that radius in that budget that he has?
Faye, I have some budgets, some options. There are three. These are local developers, not big city developers or national developers, but there are options within his price range, roughly about 32 to 3,800 rupees a square foot, and you would get a 500 to 600 square feet apartment. Just a word of caution here. There is a mushrooming of a lot of illegal properties in this region. So if you're buying, you have to do your homework very carefully. Go check the property, go check the track record of the developer so that you don't get, it should check out the approvals so that you get a good deal. But it is possible he can get within his budget.
All right, so there are options there for you, and if you need more help, get back in touch with us. Our next question comes in from Manoj Kumar. Now, he writes in saying he wants to buy an apartment in Bangalore as an investment. It's a time horizon of 5 to 8 years, a budget of between 35 and 45 lakh rupees. Now, he's shortlisted a list of projects, all of them from the Provident group. He has the Provident Wellworth City in Yelahanka, Sunworth on Mysore Road, and Harmony in Thanisandra. Now, the Thanisandra project is a little more expensive than his budget. So, that's an interesting choice. He wants to know which of these projects will give him good returns. Shweta, if you look at all three of them, so the choices obviously then become about the location. Yelahanka and Mysore Road are going to take some time before we see the market actually pick up there.
Actually, his third option, which he's mentioned is expensive for him, is most advisable because of the upcoming IT and SEZ projects there. And the second most recommended project would be Yelahanka. The only thing is that Yelahanka project is already ready, so it's not really going to provide him with the kind of upside he may get in the third project. So that's something which he needs to kind of make up his mind about. And the second project which he's spoken about is something not to be considered at all, because there are no drivers on that particular, which is your Mysore Road. So that's something which should be actually kept out of consideration.
If he were to, if you look at his budget right now and we should consider Wellworth City, which is right now in Yelahanka, how long will it be before he sees good rental income at least from that project?
See, Yelahanka has a lot of supply, and there are some very good developers like RMZ who've got some exciting projects there. But said this, it's not Bangalore, and it is going to eventually create a lot of value for him. So if he's not in a position, if he has restrictions on the budget, and then he is not in a position to actually opt for the third option that he is talking about, then in that scenario he should look at Yelahanka.
He should look at Yelahanka. Josh, I want to quickly bring you in here. Now, obviously, he's made a list of Provident projects at this point, but he doesn't necessarily have to stick to Provident, because within that budget of 45 lakh rupees, he will be able to buy other projects with similarly reputed developers. Are there any other options you'd like to give him if he's only looking to invest?
Faye, I would say that he should actually consider Thanisandra, because Thanisandra is, like Shweta said, is easy on the upswing, and it is going to grow faster. Thanisandra has a lot of options, and if you look at places like Bhartiya City, you have all kinds of options within that area. So it's not that if he can't afford the Provident project in Thanisandra, he can't afford anything else. I think he should do a little more market research, not necessarily with one developer. You should look at markets and see what all is available in that market, and then go for the developers. And in all these places, Yelahanka, Thanisandra, you do have good city developers there.
So both of our guests agreeing that Thanisandra holds the most promise. And of course, if you're looking at Thanisandra, you don't have to limit yourself to one developer. There are plenty of options within your budget, and that's a good budget for Thanisandra. So do some more looking around and send us a new list once you make your fresh short list. Let's take another question. Ramesh has written in, he wants to buy either a 2 or a 3-bedroom apartment in Pune for end use with a budget of 80 lakh to 1.2 crore rupees. Now, he wants to know what the prevailing rates are in the Camp area, in the Amanora area and Kondwa. He wants to know, does it make more sense to buy two-bedroom units and convert them into one unit, or should he look at a larger apartment? Jayashree, if he's looking at Pune Camp, he'll have to settle for maybe a slightly older construction. But what are the rates right now that he could possibly consider?
When I check the site, Faye, it's about 6,200 to 6,700 per square foot, but we have no options in the Camp or Amanora, which means that here the demand is very high, and that's what we've seen. The demand is very high, but the properties are few and far between. If you want in the Camp and Amanora, you will have to go and visit local brokers, find properties there. I don't think the volume, so it's like a seller's market. If a property comes in and it quotes a certain rate, you will have to go with that rate because there aren't too many options and the demand is very high. But whereas in Kondwa, you will get at about 5,000 to 6,500 rupees per square foot, and a 1,500 to 1,700 square feet apartment you should be able to get in 70 lakh to a crore. So there are many developers there, and not very large developers, but good reputed city developers, and I think he should be able to get what he wants in Kondwa. The other two areas, he'll have to go for older properties, and we'll have to do a lot more searching before he finds what he wants.
Shweta, what are the challenges in a place like Pune camp to look for two adjacent apartments and knock down the wall and combine it to one unit? Because he's going to have trouble finding two buyers who are next door to each other willing to sell.
See, it's also a matter of choice in the sense that I don't think it will really create any additional value for him to buy two-bedroom apartments and then kind of amalgamate them. If he requires a larger flat, then I think he should just opt for a four-bedroom apartment versus trying to identify two bedrooms. This is a cantonment area, so the supply tends to be restricted. As per the regulations there, you can't really construct. So therefore, like Jayashree said, supply will always be a challenge. My view would be that he can maybe opt for two bedrooms if it's simply investment, and maybe look at two different micro markets. So that way he's actually hedging himself against the risk.
But he's looking at end use, so he's looking at something he wants to live in.
Yeah, then I think a 3 BHK or a 4 BHK is also makes sense, because if it's a ready building, then to combine two apartments together will be additional headache and cost as well.
All right, so this is what you have to do. Look for a 3 or a 4 bedroom apartment. Write back to us if you have any more questions or if you need more help. Last question on the show. Praveen Sharma has written in. He's looking to buy either a plot of land or a flat in North Chennai in the Oragadam area with a budget of 60 lakh rupees. He's looking for capital appreciation of 3 or 4 times of his investment in 5 years. Please give me some advice. My first advice to him would be to be a little careful about your expectations. Also, 5 years is a really short period for any sort of property investment. Do you think he needs to maybe reconsider his expectation?
Yes, that is definitely there. Like Jayashree said, we will not see the bull run like we saw in 2006 to 2008. More importantly, with so much new supply coming in most parts of the country, it's actually very difficult to predict in terms of what the appreciation would be. But if he is purely an investor, then it may be advisable for him to actually split the corpus into two and maybe look at two different micro markets and purchase, say, a plotted development, a plot in a plotted development, which could be DTCPA approved. And he could look at corridors like Oragadam, Shri Perumbutur, GST. And there is an integrated township called Mahindra World City in GST Road, which is what he could consider. So by doing this, it would be also easy for him to exit, as in if he wants to kind of sort of de-risk himself and exit out of one, say within a 3 to 5 years.
I really want to ask you very quickly. He said he has a budget of 60 lakh rupees. Will he be able to do two?
Yeah, he can do two, so which is about 2,400 square feet of plot of land, and that would be about 25 to 30 lakhs.
All right.
One plot.
Jayashree, that seems like an interesting idea to actually split up the money and buy two pieces of property in Chennai. Do you agree? And what sort of options do you have for him?
In Oragadam itself, about a 1,450 to 2,000 square feet plot is what I can find within his budget. It's roughly 3,000 to 4,200 per square foot. So with 60 lakh, he should be able to get this much. There are developers and developments there, but I think he should actually go and check out all the approvals, because these are small local developers, and the chances are that they may be good developments, but you'll have to see how well that whole place is managed, what the development is, especially when you're buying plots. The quality of the upkeep of that entire development leads to property values rising. So it is very important to go and check what that property is all about.
All right, we've reached the end of the show, but a quick recap on two very interesting things we learned today. Shweta brought us an interesting idea. If you're looking only as an investment, it might make sense to split up your investment into two pieces of property and de-risk the investment that you're making. And of course, both of our guests telling us to be super careful about the developer and do all of your research when you're making any sort of an investment in property. Ladies, thank you so much for spending time with us and answering all of our questions. If you have a question for either Jayashree or Shweta, write to us. Email ID is on your screen. You can reach me on Twitter. Thanks so much for watching.